If you've scheduled an amputation, you might be feeling a bit overwhelmed. Today, I'll be sharing my pre-amputation checklist to help you feel more prepared on amputation day. Our first category is stuff you'll need to coordinate with your doctor. If you don't have a handicap parking placard, your pre-op appointment is a great time to ask for one. In my state, this involved the doctor signing off on a one-page form, which I then took to my local county building to get a parking pass. Now I can park close to everything, plus I have extra space to the side of my car for getting my wheelchair in and out. Next up, do you have a pain specialist or a med management doctor? It's highly preferable to be an established patient before you're in the heat of recovery. Aside from prescribing pain meds, they can answer questions that arise, such as whether it's safe to have Tylenol and ibuprofen with the prescription meds you're given. Also, have you chosen a prosthetics clinic? I recommend meeting multiple providers if possible because it's hard to switch if you end up not liking your prosthetist. Mine told me that he gets paid per prosthetic device, not per office visit. So if you get a prosthetic leg, then try to switch to a new clinic. It's like asking the new place to help you out for free until you need a new foot or socket, which could be years. If the new clinic isn't up for working for free that long, you could end up stuck with someone you don't like. Speaking of which, not all prosthetists provide the same services. One that I met with said he'd come to the hospital, give me a leg brace to prevent knee contractures, then visit me at home after I got out of the hospital. A different prosthetist I met didn't offer any of that. So meet a few prosthetists and ask lots of questions about what their care plan includes. Next up is random, but you may want to know the weight of your severed limb. For the rest of your life, things like BMI and weight comparisons are going to be tricky. My guesstimate ended up being very different from the actual weight of my severed limb. I know this because I asked the doctor to put my foot on a scale once it was off. Now I know how much I need to adjust my weight whenever I need an accurate number. If this is something you care about, ask ahead of time. Then remind your surgeon the day of amputation, because once your foot is off, there's no second chance to weigh it. Amputation is inherently depressing. Anxiety could be in the mix too. If you haven't talked to your doctor yet about antidepressants, now might be a good time. Even if you don't need them long term, it might help you through the rough part of recovery. So ask your doctor and see what he thinks. While you're at it, how about you ask about a stool softener? Random, I know, but hear me out. Anesthesia slows down the digestive tract and can lead to constipation, as can many medications you might be given afterwards. Constipation is bad enough on its own, but I made the unpleasant discovery that it can also impact, unintended, my phantom limb. I don't know why, but if I had to guess, I'd say that it puts pressure on the nerves that lead down to my amputated limb. Who knows? I'm not a doctor. I don't know why constipation makes phantom pain worse, and maybe it's just me, but my pain during recovery definitely decreased when I started taking stool softeners. If I could go back in time, I would ask my doctor about preemptively starting stool softeners before symptoms arose. And of course, whenever you're about to have surgery, be sure to check on things like insurance pre-approvals, copays, and all that fun stuff. It would be really awkward to go to leave the hospital only to realize you can't get your pants on over your cast. Side note, based on what I've heard, it seems to vary whether you'll go home in a cast, surgical splint, brace, or just soft bandages. This is a great time to mention that everything in this video is based on my experience and what I've heard from fellow amputees. I'm not a medical professional. This is not medical advice, just ideas to get you thinking. Anyhow, since going around pantless is frowned upon in society, you need a plan. Basketball shorts are an option. You could buy post-surgical pants online, wear a skirt, or you could have a seamstress add a zipper to pants you already own. I made a rap about that once. Anyhow, just keep in mind that your leg is going to be very tender, so clothing that's loose and comfortable is best. Speaking of clothes, it's time to pack your hospital bag. I wasn't sure how long I'd be away from home, so I packed extra clothes. Between the hospital and rehab, I was gone a month, but it definitely varies from patient to patient. Having a supportive shoe, singular, like a sneaker, will be safer than using flip-flops or slippers when it's time to go home. And apologies to double amputees. Some of my suggestions are geared towards unilateral amputees because that's where my experience lies. Aside from things like hygiene items, I didn't need much at the hospital. I packed my laptop but never ended up using it because the days were pretty busy between nurses constantly coming in and frequent physical therapy. I'm putting out a video on what it's like in the hospital after amputation next week. So if you don't want to miss it, subscribe and click the bell. Point is, I came prepared with a few things to do in case I got bored, but I never got the chance to use them. Your experience might be completely different, so why not be prepared? Whatever you do, just don't forget your phone charger. I mean, some hospitals do have a few spare chargers lying around, but it's best to have one you know works with your specific phone. All right, so we've got your bag ready, but what about your house? Can you reach the laundry? I don't know why it's so popular to have the washer and dryer on different floors from the bedrooms, but it complicates amputated life. I had a method where I scooted up and down the stairs with the laundry basket on my lap. Your solution may look different. Maybe you have a friend or family member who's available to help you out. But problem-solving things like laundry ahead of time will make life easier post-op. Back to your house. Can a wheelchair get around the corners and hallways? What's your plan if it can't? Are there any things that you won't be able to reach that maybe you should move within your reach ahead of time? Do you need to rearrange furniture? Can you get in and out of the house? Do you need a ramp, stair lift, or other accommodations? While you're drugged up, sleep deprived, and hurting, it will be harder to remember things. If you can set bills to auto pay, you'll be less likely to forget paying something important like your rent, your mortgage, utilities, and so forth. You'll have frequent appointments after amputation. How are you going to get to them? Does your wheelchair or your knee scooter fit easily in your car? Depending on what meds you're on, you may or may not be allowed to drive. Do you have a family member or a friend who can drive you, or will you need to rely on things like Uber and public transportation? If you're not too drugged up and you want to drive yourself around independently, you'll need a strategy for getting around when you don't have a prosthesis on. I'm lucky and have a minivan, so it's easy for me to roll my chair up into the van. When I've used SUVs, I've taken along an iWalk or crutches, which I kept in the trunk. I'd roll up my chair to the back of the car, stand up, kneel with my amputated knee on the bumper as I loaded up the chair, then use the crutches to get back to the driver's seat. You might also want to budget some extra time when you go places for getting the wheelchair in and out. When you park in handicapped parking, keep in mind which side you'll need the extra space for loading and unloading your wheelchair or scooter. Speaking of which, you're going to need some sort of mobility device, not just during recovery, but for the rest of your life because you won't have your leg on 24/7. Crutches are the most basic solution, but they can slip if the ground is wet. Plus, you can't really use your hands while using crutches. The iWalk is useful and lets you use your hands, but it's a little cumbersome to get it on and off whenever you need to sit down. I've never really used a knee scooter, but I know a lot of amputees love them. My wheelchair is my personal go-to, partly because I have pain in my good leg, which makes things like knee scooters, crutches, and iWalks problematic. But also, I just find the wheelchair fits my lifestyle better and is faster and more functional for me personally. Plus, I don't have to worry about slipping or falling. Different tools work better for different tasks and situations. They all have pros and cons, so I like to have a variety of options. In my area, there are organizations that resell used mobility equipment and handbars and shower chairs, all sorts of stuff, which saves money. Plus, you can check thrift stores or classifieds. I found my Tie-Lite wheelchair on the classifieds and ended up loving it way more than my custom wheelchair that I got through insurance. On to the bathroom. How are you going to shower and bathe? Do you need grab bars or a shower bench? How slippery is the rug and the floor itself, both when it's wet and when it's dry? Can your wheelchair even fit into the bathroom, or will you need to switch to something like crutches? How easily can you get to the bathroom from your bed or wherever you spend most of your day? Having impaired mobility can make it hard to reach food, and food's kind of important. Ask yourself what you need to do to be able to reach the food. Do you need to rearrange your cupboards a bit, like bring the food and a few plates down lower, or maybe put a microwave on the counter where it's easier to reach? If you can get a mini fridge and put it near the couch with a microwave on top, then it will make eating a whole lot easier while you're recovering. Before amputation is a great time to stock up on frozen food, healthy snacks, and things like canned soup. Easy and nutritious are the key words. Or if you're up to it, you can make homemade freezer meals ahead of time. You can also stave off dishes by using disposable plates while you're recovering. If only they had an option like that for laundry. Life doesn't play fair. I was still responsible for other people even while trying to recover from something as major as amputation. If you have pets, you'll need someone to care for them while you're at the hospital. When you get home, you might still need help at first with things like walking the dog. Cats are easier, but kids are not. Kids are high maintenance pets, so it would be wise to come up with a game plan for getting them to school, feeding them, and all that fun parenting stuff. Think through what a typical day looks like and what needs to get done. While I was in the hospital and rehab, my youngest went to daycare for a month while my husband was at work. When I got home from the rehab and hospital, all 3 of my kids missed me and were extra needy, which made it very hard to take it easy. I wish I had a plan in place to help with that transition. Emotional support isn't something you can order online, but if you can arrange to have supportive people around you, it can help when you're in pain, feeling discouraged, and struggling to adapt to challenges of daily living. I think counseling is also wonderful, and nowadays there are many options if you're not feeling well enough to go in person. It also helps to have something to distract you from pain, whether it's a good book, puzzles, games, or a craft project. Heat pads and ice packs are also great things to have on hand, or on leg in this case. That was a lot. If I missed anything, let me know in the comments. If this list is overwhelming, I'd recommend identifying what's most important to you personally. Some things can wait, others can't. But the most important thing to remember is that life will go on. Yes, you have some major challenges, but you can still have a happy and fulfilling life. So hang in there and good luck. I'm Stephanina, and thank you for joining me on my amputee adventures.